Okay, let's get started with question 3. Question 3 is a straight line graph. And we're given a diagram, and we're told that there is a line, and that line L1 cuts the x-axis at point A, which is this point here, and it has the coordinates 6, 0. And it cuts the y-axis at point B, which is here, which is at 0, 2. Okay, so that's very clear. So write down the coordinates of M, the midpoint of the line segment AB. So basically what it's saying is there's a point somewhere here in the middle called M. What is its coordinates? And it's the midpoint, it's halfway between. Now we could try and guess and work this out, but let's work this out properly using the formula. So if we look across, it's in the prior learning section inside the formula booklet. And at the bottom of there, it's coordinates of the midpoint of a line segment with endpoints. So we've got 2 points here, so we can use these 2 points and this formula here to work out the midpoint. Now it requires to have x1 and x2. So x1, just pick 1 point, we'll call this x1, and this y1. And this one over here will be x2, y2. So our first point, our second point. So x1 is the x part of our coordinate from our first point, and y1 is the y part of our coordinate from our first point, and so on for the second point. Now we can use our formula. So if we use the formula, so the midpoint is given by the formula x1 plus x2 all over 2 and y1 plus y2 all over 2. And what you might notice, that the way the formula is set up, it's set up like a coordinate. So let's continue on and fill in everything we need. So x1 is 6, and we're going to add x2 to that, and x2 is 0. So that's what we've called that there. All over 2. y1 is 0 and y2 is 2, so that's plus 2 all over 2. This then gives us 6 over 2, 2 over 2, and we tidy this up, gives us the coordinate 3, 1, and we can write that down in our answer box. Okay, so that's the midpoint. Now, the next thing it says, calculate the gradient of line L1. Now, if we want to calculate the gradient of a line, we need the formula for that. So we need to look through. So we go through our booklet, and we look for the... Where was it now? I saw it a second ago. Yeah, we look for the geometry. And the geometry and trigonometry section, and equation of a straight line. And the gradient formula. So here's the formula for the gradient. So the gradient formula, M, is equal to y2 minus y1 all over x2 minus x1. So what we've got here is y2, which is 2, which we've already labeled these, so we can actually just use this straight away. So y2 is 2, y1 is 0, so that's 2 minus 0 all over. What's the next thing we have here? x2 is 0 minus 6. And then this gives us 2 all over minus 6, which is equal to minus 1/3. So our gradient is minus 1/3. And I recommend writing that as a fraction. Do not get into the habit of trying to write that as a decimal. That's not going to work very well for you. It can cause more errors, especially when we're working out certain things. It's not the best idea. Okay, so I'm just tidy up that there, make that a little bit smaller so I can fit in my working for the next section. So it says here, the line L2 is parallel to L1. Now, I'm sure you can remember that parallel lines have the same gradient, and it passes through the point 3, 2. So it passes through a point. Now, it asks us to find the equation of L2 and give your answers in the form y equals mx plus c. So it wants you to write your answers as y equals mx plus c. That's a little aside, we'll get to that in the end. And it says find the equation of L2. So there is a nice formula that's not listed in this booklet. However, this formula is really, really useful. Now, I'm sure it's not listed. No, it's not listed in the prior learning section. However, this formula is very, very useful for working out the gradient of a straight line. And let me write it down for you just now. So it's y minus b equal to m brackets x minus a. Okay, so this is the formula we're going to use. And what is a and b? Well, A and B are just the x and y values of a point that's on the line. We have a point that's on the line, 3, 2. So that means A is going to equal 3 because A is the x coordinate of that point, and B is going to equal 2. So all we need to do now is substitute this into our formula, and we know what m is already because we just worked it out. M is minus a third. So we have y minus 2 is equal to minus a third x minus 3. Now, we're almost finished, but we just need to go on a little bit further. We need to expand those parentheses out. So that's y minus 2 is minus a third x plus 1. And then we need to get this minus 2, we need to remove it. And we do that by adding 2 to both sides. So y equals minus a third x plus 2. So we can write that answer in. Y equals minus a third x plus 2. Now there are slightly different ways we could write that. We could write it as minus x all over 3 plus 2. There are a few others, but that's enough. We only need one of those would be sufficient. And that's question 3.